Hey Brandon, Celine, or whoever else finds this video and feels like watching it. I'm recording this from North Carolina for you guys. It's around 11:30 at night, and I'm actually on my family vacation. And my family's asleep, and I broke away just for you guys. Um, uh, so if you hate everything else I have in this video, I at least hope you feel important and that I care about you enough to spend some time on my vacation late at night just to respond to things that you've said to me, because I think it's valuable and I care about you guys and I care about your opinions. And even though we haven't talked probably in a couple of years, to both of you in particular. So I want to start off by saying that I think my main disagreement with what you guys have said to me in the post, and just to highlight a couple of them. Brandon, you said you think that my post was careless, kind of untimely, condescending, that it was uncompassionate, and basically that it was just me being condescending and kind of tilting my nose up to people who were hurting. And Celine, you said something similar to that, is that it was uncompassionate. And at least there's people like Brandon who are compassionate to it, and Brandon is very compassionate. So um, my main issue is in that I think is that you guys are taking one example or even 10 examples of something that I've said online on Facebook, and I'll circle back to that in a second, and applying it generally. It's very broad brushed. You're saying that I'm hurting and belittling people, or that's at least what Celine said. um, can you tell me the name of somebody I'm belittling? Like, who am I hurting? Who's the true victim? It's easy to, in general, talk about, oh, you're hurting this group of people, but I'm really not. A group of people was not hurt because of me, and my post didn't have any malintent. It wasn't aimed at anybody. It wasn't targeted. I did have a couple things in mind, and I'll tell you specifically what I had in mind, because I have a feeling you guys pictured something else. I'm not sure, but my point is, I feel like you guys are taking something that was said on Facebook, which is not truly reality. I think we all agree that Facebook is like an avatar faux world, right? Where people kind of post their best of life, their best pictures, the highlights. They post random thoughts. They share things kind of unthinkingly. It's not like Facebook truly represents a person, at least in my opinion. I mean, you may get a glimpse of some things, but people are generally very different online than they are in person. And so when you take something that somebody shares and then broad brush them and a group of people off of that, I think it's dangerous. It's kind of hasty. I really think it's an error to do, and I would caution you both from doing that moving forward, because I certainly had no malintent or wanting to hurt anybody or offend anybody. Um, but I do think that my post was very timely in the fact that it highlights something that's been going on, as you called out, Brandon, for many years, right? That post isn't new. I didn't just post that. That kind of thought of people being overly offended has been around for a while, and I think it's valid, right? And in this case, I think you two are demonstrating that you're taking something that somebody said and then attacking the person, or calling them names, or questioning their beliefs or their behaviors, right? With someone Brandon, specifically when you said, I grow weary of people who I knew growing up who claimed to be Christians but then act in uncompassionate ways, right? So you're insinuating, whether it's intentional or unintentional, that I may not be a Christian, or I may be abandoning things that Jesus taught, and things like that. And it's like, that's kind of a big claim, especially off of one Facebook post when we haven't talked in years. I mean, the point of this video isn't for me to list all the things I do, or how I show compassion. I mean, that's not my point. My point is, I think you guys are kind of on dangerous ground going and saying, oh, this is so offensive, off of one thing someone says and attacking the person. Um, so, and again, you guys weren't overtly attacking or, cursing me out or anything like that, but I do think you guys took that too seriously. This is supposed to be a joke. It's a comic strip on Facebook, which isn't even the real world, right? That and again, I think the main point I would want to suggest to you guys is always assume the best. I feel that in this case, you guys assume the worst, right? That I had some malintent, or I was specifically thinking of somebody and specifically turning my nose up to a group of people hurting, and I wasn't. Um, honestly, what thought went through my mind specifically is the baker who offended the two homosexual people who wanted them to bake a cake that basically said, celebrating their gay marriage, and he said, no, that's against my beliefs, and they got so offended they sued him. They went to court. I mean, that's specifically what was in my mind the moment I hit the share button. But there's other examples, right? Like Rashida Tlaib not being able to stand in front of somebody and walk away, Brett Kavanaugh when his name's mentioned, and it's like those type of things are just, they're illogical. It doesn't truly make sense. And when people, and those are just two examples, I'm sorry, they're both kind of political, but that was what was going through my mind. So if you guys had in your mind that I was hurting anybody else, you guys misjudged me, right? So again, I'm not here with any malintent for you guys. I want to share my perspective. I want to hear what you guys have to say because I value your opinions. But I do think that you guys erred in this case by going on and attacking me. And Celine, specifically when it talks about Jesus flipping the tables and things like that, absolutely. He did that out of compassion. He did that out of anger. But I would say that was also perfectly within his right to do because he was God, right? He was not only a priest, he was the creator, he was all knowing, he can judge people's hearts. And he's the one who designed how the temple should work. So he designed there to be an outer court, an inner court, and it was meant to have people there to gather and worship. And they had people there selling a bunch of stuff, right? And so I wouldn't say that this is specifically, they flipped the table specifically thinking of the least people who were being oppressed, but they certainly were in the outer court where the Gentiles were supposed to be. And I would say that the main reason he flipped the tables is that they weren't following his design, right? He said, this is supposed to be a house of worship, and you've turned it into a den of thieves. So the idea of this is compassion for the Gentiles, I would say is there, but I'd also say it's more so that he designed the temple for a specific function and purpose, and he was God, and he is the rightful judge. He doesn't make errors. He knows what's right. So him going flipping tables was his judgment, and sure, yeah, that definitely had his human nature in it, but it was also a godly, priestly judgment, and was more so focused on people not following the design that was laid out for them, more than thinking about people not, having compassion on people who were being abused, in my opinion. So that's my perspective. I care about you guys. I hope you're doing great. And I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Feel free to message me and we can talk. But this is a dialogue. I don't want to argue. On those Facebook back and forth, this is better in my opinion. But talk to you guys soon. I hope you're doing well.